Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsay's Little Library. So today, it's actually May 2nd, and that means I need to give you guys the down low on what I read in April. So here's my wrap up. I read 8 books, which is phenomenal, and I will take that. If I could read 8 books every month, like that would make me super, super happy. But reality is, it doesn't always happen, but we're good with this. And I had some really good reads. Like, didn't really have any duds. Again, I'll take it. All right, let's get started. First one I want to talk about, actually, it's just because they're just in a pile. We're gonna go with this one first. Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I remember reading this very early on in the month of April. Like I started it on like the 2nd or something, and I finished it all of like 2 or 3 days later. It was fantastic. It is a YA book about our main character. What's her name again? Avery. That's what I thought it was. Avery, and she is just kind of surviving high school. Not in the best place. She is living with her sister, but her sister's boyfriend is not so great, so she finds herself kind of living in her car more than in a house. Until one day she finds out that she is inheriting, or she's invited to go to this reading of this will of this very, very wealthy man, whom she has no idea who it is. So she goes to this reading of the will and finds out that she basically inherits everything. Not his children, not his grandchildren, her. And the stipulation is she has to live in the house for a year with these people, and then she'll get her inheritance. Still no clue as to why her or how this is connected. Her parents are gone, so she doesn't have anybody to go back to and be like, do you know this person? So she takes it on. She starts living in the house, and it ends up turning into a bit of a mystery, a bit of a game. Think like an escape room, sort of. Think of a bunch of clues and putting them together and trying to figure out how this all is connected, and she's in the middle of it, along with the 4 grandsons that are also her age and also involved in this. And so really, really good book. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to start the 2nd book. Maybe I'll pick that up in May. That would be a good one. So what did I give? I don't remember what I gave that one. Let's check the notes. This is why I have to keep notes. 5 stars. I did give it 5 stars. I thought so. So fantastic book. Next one I picked up is All 13 by Christina Sunterant. This one was recommended by Amanda, the Curly Reader, and Krista at Books and GMs during their middle grade March, and so I ended up finding it on my library app and read it. I read the ebook of it. So this follows the 12 soccer players who were ranging from ages of like 11 to 15, something like that, and their coach in Thailand, who went exploring in a cave and ended up getting stuck in there during some horrible raining storms. So it talks about their experience, the experience of getting them out and rescuing them. It was so fantastic. I was constantly on my phone reading this, like during my daughter's basketball games when she wasn't on the court. I was reading on my phone. That's how good it was. So I did give it 4 stars. There's a couple spots just, I don't know why I didn't give it 5 stars. It was just fantastic. So just read it, okay? Read it. And then I read another nonfiction, The Sun Does Shine by Anthony Ray Hinton. I've talked about this quite a bit over the last few weeks on this channel. This was a 5-star prediction. This was, why else did I read this? Oh, it was a book club book. That's why. So lots of required reading boxes were checked with this book, but it's fantastic. It follows the story of Anthony Ray Hinton and his kind of quest for freedom as he is living on death row, and what he goes through, what happens. This book is one will stick with you for a while, and it still sticks with me for a while. It was 5 stars, easy 5 stars. All right. What is my next one? Got a whole pile still. We got lots. Next one I picked up is Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. This one, Sun Does Shine, this one, and the address were all books that I read for the Booklist Backlist Readathon that we did in April, which was a blast. And I loved loved getting some backlist books read. So I'm going to kind of carry that on as we go forward, as you'll see, because it just feels good to read books off your shelf. All right, out of the easy, Rita Sepetys. So this follows our main character. Her name is Josie. She is determined to get herself a better life than what her mother's been given, than what she's been raised in. So this takes place in the past. I want to say it's like 1950s. Does it say on the back? It does not. I know it says somewhere. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It takes place in New Orleans, and her mom is working in a brothel. She is doing what her mom can do to keep herself alive, to keep her daughter alive. And Josie has befriended some very interesting characters who are very determined to help Josie get out of this situation and make it so that Josie does not fall into her mother's footsteps. So Josie is so smart and so like witty, and she's able to just think on her feet so quickly, and it's just the story of what happens. There is a mysterious death that happens during this book that is kind of the background of the story and how Josie's trying to figure out what actually happened, and gets a little too involved, but it's really good. I loved it. I've now read almost all of Rita Sepetys. I haven't read her brand new one yet, but Rita Sepetys is definitely an author. I will continue to pick up her books, so I gave that one 4 stars. Next one I picked up, this one has probably been on my shelf for the longest time. Shoot the Moon by Billy Letts. So when I kind of got back into reading, so I read a bunch when I was a kid, and then I took a little bit of a break because, you know, college, you just gotta read a lot, and there's other things to do. So once we got past that and I started reading again, I read Where the Heart Is, which is by Billy Letts, and I immediately picked up another book by her and just kind of sat on my shelf. So this one is fantastic. This one takes place in 1970s. We have Oklahoma. There is a murder that happened to one of the residents there. It's a very, very small town. And the baby of this mother and child, mother's found dead and the baby is missing. 30 years later, Nick, who is the child, returns to this small town and wants some answers and starts digging into the past to really kind of figure out. And at that time, 30 years later, the murder of his mother had never been solved. It was this cold case that just sat there. And so he came back to just figure things out. And it was really, really good. I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the writing. It reminded me a lot of Where the Heart Is. And glad I finally picked it up. So I gave that one 4 stars. So then I picked up The Address by Fiona Davis, my first Fiona Davis book and not my last. This one hooked me immediately. It was so good. So we have dual timelines. The main story, or the main setting, is the Dakota. It's this apartment building in New York City right by Central Park. And it's kind of like a character in and of itself within this book, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. So we have 2 timelines. We have Sarah Smith, who is coming over from England because she had an encounter with Theodore Camden, who is helping, it's the architect for the Dakota. So he was in England staying at the hotel Sarah stayed at, and her work ethic caught his eye. And he's like, you know what? I'm an architect for this, but I wholeheartedly believe that they will hire you. Come on over to the United States and come work there. And so she does. Then we have 100 years later, and we have Bailey Camden, who is picking herself back up after some really tough years. And so she's given this new opportunity to renovate an apartment at the Dakota. Now, Bailey's grandfather was a ward of this architect, of Theodore Camden. He was not his child, but he was kind of adopted by that family and raised at that family. And so Bailey does have a connection to the Dakota. During the revelations, Bailey discovers this crazy event that happened in the past. She knew that Theodore Camden was murdered at the Dakota, and she finds out that he was stabbed by a former employee who previously lived there and was sent to an insane asylum. and she finds out the name of that person is Sarah Smith. So we have our past timeline where we know some bad shit's gonna happen, and we're just kind of getting the premise and the details around what led up to it, and then our present and what Bailey's going through. So the definition of a historical fiction book that Lindsey loves this is an example of it. It's so fantastic, and I truly, truly loved it. I loved it so much that I did a page one subscription, which page one is kind of like a blind date with a book type of a subscription service. And so they will pick a book for you and they wrap it for you and they send it to you. And it's a surprise. You do get to give them like what you like, and which is why I'm saying, I mean, this was a perfect pick that they sent me because this is wholeheartedly a very Lindsey book. But I already have it. And what's awesome about page one is that if you already have the book, just let them know and they send you another one. So I've got another one on the way. And this one they told me to give away. So I could take it to, you know, my free little library, but I thought I'd give it away to you guys. So if you want a chance to win a copy of the address for yourself, leave a comment below saying that you want to be entered into the giveaway, and I will pick a winner this Friday, May 6th. So you have a really short window of time to put in your name, and I will pick that winner that day, and I will send you a copy of the address. So super excited to be able to give this away and spread the love. So if you haven't heard of page one before now, go to the link in my description and check them out. I went to the subscription, I bought myself one, I wanted to check it out. This is by no way sponsored by them, but I want to send some love their way. So go check that one out. All right, next book I read, oh, this was during the readathon too, is Flight of Dreams. I forgot about that. Flight of Dreams by Ariel Lawhon. I've had this on my shelves forever. Love Ariel Lawhon. I think the way she writes is so unique, and it's not for every reader out there, I do find. So this one is one that I'm hesitant to suggest to a lot of people because just the way she writes is very different. So Ariel Lawhon is known for taking a historical event and gives her own twist on what she think might have happened. And so in this case, she takes the Hindenburg and what happened to that and puts her own twist on it. And basically she's saying that on the evening of May 3rd, 1937, 97 people boarded Hindenburg for its doomed flight to New Jersey. Among them, we have a stewardess, a navigator, a cabin boy, a journalist, and an American businessman. So it follows these 5 characters and it follows their points of view throughout this flight as we know what's going to happen to the Hindenburg, and it's going to blow up right when it's trying to land. And she's giving us what she thought might have been going on that led to that disaster. So it's fantastic. As always, her author's notes are just like no other. I love them. A little slow at times, so I did give this one 4 stars, but still would recommend it. Knowing what you're getting when you go into an Ariel Lawhon book. Keep that in mind. And the last one I picked up, I read with Amy. I'll leave her channel below because we had a blast reading this book together. We read Surviving Savannah by Patty Callahan. This makes me want to go to Savannah so bad. Very interesting connections between like the historical books that I read. So, oh, and this one, I guess. Just really interesting how my books had very similar themes. So we have dual timelines. We have people going on to a steamboat called the Pulaski, which we know is going to sink. And kind of what Patty thinks could have happened with this family. Now, she brought in a lot of really accurate historical information because, of course, I went down a huge rabbit hole. After reading this one and this one, which I love about books, right? Isn't that just what I love about them? But this follows our present-day timeline, which is Everly, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't love that perspective. I really liked the past timeline and who we were learning about then. Everly just kind of rubbed me the wrong way sometimes. Just be aware. And then we have our past timeline. We have Lily and Augusta who are on the steamboat on the Pulaski and goes through what happens to them as they experience the explosion that happens. And that does happen fairly early in the book, which I was kind of surprised as far as like timing wise when Patty brought that in. So fantastic book. I'm going to round it up to 4 stars and say still read it, just know that Everly might get under your skin. That's all I've got for you. So those are the 8 books that I read in April. It's a fantastic month, plus 1 giveaway. So be sure to go down, leave your comment if you're interested in the address. Otherwise, here they are. It's quite the stack. Let me know what you read in the month of April, if any good ones popped up for you that you would suggest that I need to pick up, and I'll check them out. Otherwise, like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and I will see you next time. Bye. Okay, totally forgot to talk about what I'm reading next. So let's just add that in now. All right, it's not that big. That's probably why I didn't really think of it before I signed off. But one book I do have to read in May is The Betrayal of Anne Frank. This is the cold case investigation by Rosemary Sullivan. Looks into who spilled the beans, basically, about Anne Frank and where she was living. So I'm excited to get to this. I've heard really, really good things about it. So that's for one book club that I have in May. The other book club, I'm not going to read the book. Shh, don't tell them. Next one, I just got to talk about this one because Max came home from school and was beyond excited to talk about these books. And so I picked up the next one. And it's by Catherine Applegate. It's Roscoe Riley Rules. And so this is number 2. It's Never Swipe a Bully's Bear. They're fantastic. The thing that I think is kind of funny is chapter 1 is all about welcoming to Roscoe in timeout and explaining why he's in timeout and what rules he broke and what happened. So we started reading this last night and I'm already hooked. Him and I have been reading quite a bit lately, so it's kind of fun. And then the next one I picked up, another backlist book that's been sitting on my shelf for way too long. This is actually from Sarah from, I don't know which book exchange even. I should have wrote a year on it. This is about a little bit, but it's Violent Ends. It's written from 13 different authors, I think. Each of them takes a character. So it took 22 minutes for Kirby Matheson to exit his car, march onto school grounds, and enter the gymnasium and open fire, killing 6 and injuring 5 others. So yeah, it's about the 13. And each chapter is told from a different viewpoint and from a different author. So I'm really excited to read that. So that's what's on my list for May. We'll see what else I come up with. I'm sure there will be more. We'll see. Maybe Skylar will pick a book for me. Anyways, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'll see you next time.